Okay, hello everyone. So today what I want to do is show you guys how to turn your standard game into a VR game. This is also a good way to migrate your content and clean up your project a little bit. I've got my game here. I've got everything pretty well organized. I've got all of my assets that I'm using in one folder, and I've gone through and kind of renamed things a little bit and cleaned things up. But now what I want to do is I actually want to close my game and start a new one. So just open up the Unreal Engine. Well, you have to open up Epic Games if you've got a Mac, and then launch it the way we've been doing. And then Games, next, and Virtual Reality, next. Then we got to change a couple things here. We're going to change to 3D scalable and do mobile/tablet because we're using an Oculus Quest or an Oculus Go, depending on what you got. This is setting up for the Oculus, so hopefully that's what we're using, one of those two. Create a new project, put it in the right folder. And while that's going, we actually need to install a developer kit, which comes with the Unreal Engine. If you've got a PC, you can follow me. If you've got a Mac, you can just search the Finder for CodeWorks. So for me, with my PC, I'm just going to go to my C drive or wherever your Unreal Engine is installed, Windows C, and I'm going to go to the program files, and then I'm going to go to, oops, it's not in program files. Users, public. Okay, so it was buried a little bit on mine. So it's under Program Files, Epic Games, Unreal Engine 4.24, whatever version you've got, and then Engine, and then Extras, and then Android Works. And then you've got to go into Windows 64 and double click on this and install the whole thing. I've already installed it. You do not want to install it twice. So when you follow through with it, it'll bring up the CodeWorks for Android. And if you search, like I said, if you have a Mac, just search the Finder for CodeWorks for Android. Next. And then you've got to say yes. Or no, I'm sorry. That's the directory where it's going to go. Next. And this is just launching CodeWorks here. I'm not actually going to hit next here, but automatically fix the dependencies, standard, and then next, and it should install all of the things you need for CodeWorks. I'm canceling. You go through with it. Okay, once you're done, you might have to close and restart, but we're going to do some other settings first. So we're going to go under Edit here and go to Plugins, and then go down to VR, and make sure Oculus VR is enabled. Then we're going to go back up to Edit, Project Settings. And this is going to be the same if you have a PC or a Mac. We're going to go to Maps and Modes, go to Motion Controller Map, set that there on Maps and Modes. Then we're going to go down to Rendering, make sure Mobile HDR is turned off. And then we're going to go down to Android under Platforms, Configure Now. And accept the SDK license. I've already accepted it. Next, we've got to change a couple things here. We changed the minimum SDK version to 25 and the target SDK version to 25. And then enable full screen immersive on KitKat and above devices. Don't worry about what all this does. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look for adding the Oculus. Let's see, add permission to support. Here it is. Packaging for Oculus mobile devices. Add. Oculus Quest is what I'm using. And then that should do it. I believe everything else should be set properly by default. And then the last thing you want to do actually is go to SDK here and make sure it's pointing to a blank. It should be going to, that's the SDK, we just installed it. So hopefully that's all set up right. If you have a problem at the end of this, it's probably something to do with this page, but we'll figure that out if that is an issue. Okay, so next we're going to go to content here. We're going to go to virtual reality blueprint, go to maps, and enter the motion controller map, not the startup map. Motion controller map. Then we're going to delete the startup map and delete the this one, HMDL map. So we're using this one. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to start deleting random things. All these cubes, delete. Leave your navigation boundaries for the bigger ones, but then there's a couple of smaller ones. Okay. All right, box brush, remove all these. Okay, so you should have basically something similar to this. Oh, some of the, oops, undo to bring that back. And then there are some labels, text, delete that, delete that. So we're just cleaning up this arena so that we've got our basic setup, and then we're going to import the rest of our objects. Okay. So this is all set up now. Last thing we want to do is go down to launch here and go to supported platforms, the little down tab next to it. And make sure Android is selected. And then you can export from Mac or Windows through this one here. And if you can export for Windows, it's actually going to be easier for the critique, but we'll talk about that in class. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and save all. And we'll close this down. We're going to open back up. This time we're going to open up our game that we've already developed and transfer the assets. So a test game here. Okay. So now we go to content, and then we go to a first-person blueprint, maps, first-person example map, and we right-click on it. We go to asset actions here and migrate. So it's going to copy all of this stuff. And even though we are copying over our first-person blueprint and all of the stuff from this, we're going to have two versions in the same file, and you can have multiple versions for different platforms, different versions attached to a different map. So for this one, okay, and then what we're looking for is desktop, the folder with the file we just created, which is our test VR here, and then we go to content and then select folder. So it copies all of those files. You can check your message log down here, see all the files that copied, and then you can check to see which ones copied by mistake. Might have an issue with that, might not. Okay, so now we've done that, we can close this and then open Unreal again. They really got to figure out a way to streamline this a little bit better, and there might be, but this also is nice because it doesn't copy over anything that you don't need. All right, so then next we're going to go to test VR here. Okay, so we can see that we still have our standard arena here for VR, but we've also got our first person blueprint here, which we can enter our maps. And while it compiles shaders and all that kind of stuff, you'll see that all the geometry is there, all of the lights are there, everything is there beautifully. So that's our first person blueprint map, but now we want to use our virtual reality blueprint map. So if I go to maps here, motion controller map, we go back to the void. And then I can go to my content, gallery, and look for all of my 3D objects. So starting right here. Okay, all the way to about right there. So this is the first big chunk. We might be missing some, but we'll use our coordinates to put it in the right spot anyway. So click, drag, drop. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in my coordinates. I'm just going to use the same ones as I was using in my other game. So negative 730, 3370, 100, and 90. Okay. So, other stuff that we need to do to clean this up is we need to change our bounds of these objects to fit our new design. So I'm going to go to a top view here. And then I'm going to individually just kind of change these. This is the post-process volume, which is for rendering purposes and stuff like that. I'm going to pull it to encompass the whole thing. Then I'm going to move it so it's not super big. We don't want to use areas we don't need. This is what we call a navigation mesh boundary, which is for areas that we can move throughout the arena, which I don't need it to be super huge. I just want it to be at the end of the catwalk and kind of stop there. And then I'm going to scale it in. And move it over a little bit, just so it looks nice. Okay, and then this is our light mass importance volume, which we actually want 2 of them, because I want the lighting to behave differently in this area than this area, and I don't want a bunch of different colors bleeding over from different lights. So now the light mass importance volume will kind of make it so that the lights stop having an impact in different areas. It's good for rendering purposes and your computer, so I'm going to have 2 of these. But first I'm going to take the first one and scale it down. Both directions, because this is going to go in one area. And then Control X, Control V, or Command X, Command V. And then put this one in there. And scale it down a little bit. So there are a little bit different volumes. I mean, the light mass volume also exists for the game, but the nav mesh is something that we use more in VR. So, okay, and then we've got, that's fine too. All right, cool. So now I'm going to go back to a perspective view. And actually, I want to go to a front view here just to kind of look at the scale of these things. With my nav mesh bounds, that's fine. My lighting, I don't need these to be so big. Scale them both. This nav mesh bounce, I don't want it to be too tall either, because I don't want to be able to like jump through windows or anything random like that. So I just want to stick to the floor, so this is where my bounds are. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to perspective here. Oops. All right. So a couple of things didn't copy over. We're missing our glass up here, so let's do search for glass and under content. There it is. Just searched for it. Came up. So that asset was there. The other thing is I want to steal my lights from my other project. So let's do that. So let's go to save all first, and then go back to our other part of the project. Go to a top view, and I'm going to copy and paste these lights into the other. Copy and paste. Did I get them all? Yes, I did. Command V or Control V to paste it back. Cool. So now I'm going to go back to my VR. Go to a top view. Oh, I'm in a top view already. And then Control V to bring them back. There we go, Control V. And since I made them in the same spot, when I pasted them in, they went to the same spot. So now let's go to a perspective view. And I'm going to go ahead and build my project out and have a look at it and see what it looks like in the light. I can see I'm actually missing a few materials. Allow access here. Okay, so I can see we got a little mess up here. And I'm missing some materials. I'm missing one painting as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and go back to content. It's probably just because they weren't all in that one group. So I'm looking for material for Qubit. There it is. And then this one. No, that's the wrong one. That one. So you can see everything is still sized the same. All of these materials have the same properties, so they will work. It's just sometimes you get a little issue with a couple of textures not working properly. Okay, the last thing I want to do is find that missing painting. There it is. Put it in and change my dimensions here. Okay, and then 90. There it is. And the material. There we go. All right, and then I want to check my collisions just to make sure that they copied over properly. So I'm going to go from lit to player collisions. Most of them look good. This one, I just need to change that from default to no collision. So I click on it. There we go. You can see we don't have any blocking volumes in here to stop the player from falling in, which could be kind of fun. It might also be kind of fun to actually set it so that this thing disappears with a switch or something like that, which can be done, but I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, so that should do it actually for this part here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off collisions, put on lit, and then I need to rebuild my lighting. All right, and then I'm going to cook content for Windows. Or you can cook content for Mac, I think. I mean, if you, well, I guess if you're doing VR, it doesn't really matter, but. So you won't really be able to test this unless you've got, oh, it looks like some things are missing in here too. You won't really be able to test things unless you've got a VR headset. So let's see if, where's my... Okay, so this looks like it's all set here. I was missing a couple materials in there. These all look good. Good. Okay, cool. So the last thing you want to do is, I mean, if you do have an Oculus, you can put on your Oculus device. Make sure you've enabled your development settings. There's a YouTube video. Just look for side loading applications to Oculus to get your developer mode set up if you've got one. And once you have it set up properly, you can plug it into the computer and you can actually launch your VR through that. So if I launch it, it's going to take a second to process the assets. Okay. Oh, you can see where my camera is. Last thing I forgot to do was put my camera in its proper spot. So let's go ahead and close this window. So just moving the camera. So I went back to a top view. I searched for pawn, and my pawn was way back in the room back here. But I want to put it right kind of in the middle here as you enter the room. And then we're going to go ahead and package it because this is all good to go. So build one more time, why not? And then we go to File, Package Project for Android, ETC1, click that. And you're just basically going to select a folder and put it in there. And if everything works out right, you should get something that looks like this. Basically, all you got to do is plug your Oculus in and double click on install _ portfolio game, blah, blah, blah. And then to uninstall it, you use this right here and it'll remove it from your Oculus Quest. So side load it onto the Quest and you'll get something like this.